Good morning, Vampire Links. How are you doing today? Oh, it seems to be working. Technically, I should probably wait a couple of minutes until 9 o'clock, which is when I'm scheduled to start, just in case anybody's made a note, you know. And given that what I'm going to be doing next, I think, is battling Cernos, might make sense just to wait a minute. Oh, this is, on a purely technical note, this is slightly strange. Normally, my live stream, which you can't see, it's over there, tells me how many people are watching. It says one person watching now, which would be me, typically, but you're here as well, so if I've learned anything is I can't entirely trust how many people it says is watching. Oh, excuse me a second. If anybody comes across this later, feel free to skip forward a couple of minutes, because I'm just saying hi to someone in chat and generally making sure everything's working. And making sure everything is around me is switched off, disabled, or otherwise not likely to disrupt me. Anyone who has any subjects they wish me to discuss during the stream, now is a good time. I'll probably end up talking more about bows and arrows, because I found out a bit more about the Yumi that our protagonist uses. What the heck. Might as well get started. Now, of course, I've got to see if I can remember how to play the game. Yeah, that doesn't look threatening at all. I mean, looks very impressive, I have to admit. Let me just see if I can remember how to shoot things. Yeah, that's the jump. Okay. I'm remembering that. Well, here goes. How do I let go? Okay. Oh, there's the Dongs of Doom. Right, let's go and proceed to try and deal with an irritated... What did they call them? Tall man? Oh, that's funny. It looked a lot closer when I was on top of the tower. I swear, is this thing running away from me? Tall one, thank you. last streamed this on Boxing Day, so I haven't played it since, so I don't remember everything. Well, if nothing else, I should get an interesting view from up here. I suppose I better get my run mechanism powered up. Am I doing the right thing by charging towards this? Why do I get the feeling I'm missing something? Am I supposed to enter this maelstrom in some alternate way? Can't remember what I said now. The response was you are. There's a delay, obviously, between me saying something and getting a response. Oh, going the right way, yeah. If that eagle had any sense, they would probably run for cover. I certainly would if I was that eagle. Do I want to be dramatic and see if I can jump into it from a height or go along the ground? You would kind of think with all the bluster, they probably would welcome this. See, this is why I would never make a decent hero, because my first response is to say, nope, not going that way. Supposed to be sprinting into it. Ah. I don't know. Seem to be getting there. And the music's changed. Oh well. Oh, there it is. Come here, you monster. I've got to say, that's quite a wow moment. Oh, yes, I had absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to do here, but now I can see there are targets on the side, so... Oh, right, okay. Ouch. Ah, this could actually be quite dramatic if I knew what I was doing. Tell you what, a controller would make this a lot easier. Yeah, controller will be a heck of a lot easier. See if I can cut it off. Oh, Oh, come on, I should surely have enough coordination to do this. How many more targets have I got to get on that thing? Approaching it from the wrong side now. Yeah, I think I've got all the targets on that side. How many more targets have I got left? I think it's just one. I can just catch up. Oh! Is it wrong that I actually feel slightly sorry for it? No idea what I'm supposed to be doing at this point. Can't shoot. Oops. Well, let's get my run back up to scratch. Well, this is what they might call a clue. Alright, I am now open to suggestions. Well, at least it's not outright killing me, just making life difficult. Yep. Ramming it doesn't do any good. Oh, there are targets there. Got it. Well, not got it, but at least I got some idea now. Right. There are targets on the side. I need to get close enough. Well, if anyone's expecting a tutorial, sorry, you're out of luck. You're just gonna have to watch me fumble my way through. Oh, this is not going to be relaxing, is it? Hold your horses, I'm coming. Well, yeah, I'm afraid I have a bit of a thing when it comes to that. My instinct is to basically get in real close. I have no idea why. I always get the feeling with something like that if you get in so close, it's really not much it can do about you because you're right underneath it. But obviously not necessarily the best tactic. Okay, did that do it? Don't tell me. Nope. Oh, well, this is a familiar position to be in. I have to admit, I'm not quite sure what I was expecting, but this kind of boss battle is not it. Although, at least you don't seem to be able to die, just get inconvenienced. What am I supposed to shoot up next? If this takes up the entirety of the live stream, I'm going to be way irritated. I mean, I don't really necessarily want it to be easy, but I haven't fought a boss battle in so long, it's ludicrous. I think the last time I actually had to fight a boss battle in a game was probably Minecraft. Oops. I actually did not mean to do that. Alright, so am I better to stand away? Yes, I suspect you are correct there. Stand away it is. Excuse me a second. Right. Oh, yeah, you know what? I do kind of feel sorry for it. I'm not supposed to feel sorry for it, am I? Wasn't part of the thing that this was a corrupted, tall one? Maybe that's why I feel sorry. Oh, maybe I was right to feel sorry. And that only took me about half an hour. Ooh! Crescent-headed arrow. Japanese did use crescent-headed arrows. I think they were... What were they used for? I want to say hunting birds, but I think they may have had more uses than that. But it strikes me as being more of a fancy kind of thing. Well, let's be honest, Vampire Links. What do you mean the land is fertile once more? Sorry. It was fertile already. I mean, it wasn't quite as dark, but... Shades of the nine-coloured deer there. Oh, I have just achieved the achievement Cleanse the Elk. 54.8% of players have this achievement. Right. Where now? Oh. The eagle came out of this pretty well. Good bird. So I suppose I should head back to wherever it was that I can't remember now. So I think last time I was wondering, I wanted to find out a bit more about Japanese bows. I mean, I knew a bit. I know more about English bows, so I did a bit of checking, and actually, the Japanese bow, I always wondered, you know, we're used to seeing Japanese bows like the Yumi in the context of that Japanese martial art. What is it? I think it's Kyoto, but I'm not positive. And the bows used in Japanese martial arts are obviously fairly light draw, which makes sense. So I did some checking onto, which revealed, not surprisingly, a lot of similarity with the classic English longbow. And essentially, in terms of the Kyoto, the Yumi, that's that bow she's carrying, there's two different versions. Yeah, you have the fairly light draw weight bows, which are good for hunting, and probably better for accuracy. And then you have the warbow. Now, the English longbow, as used in battle, had a draw weight of sort of 120 plus pounds. Well, call it 60 kilograms for the sake of convenience. Going up to 80 kilograms and more. Well, it turns out that the Yumi actually had a similar draw weight in a warbow, that is. Although, arguably, the application was quite different. The English longbow was basically used to shoot for range. In other words, you get your bunch of archers together, and they're all shooting at given ranges, because that's where the enemy are, and the whole idea is to pretty much saturate that area of the battlefield with arrows, which worked quite well. Now, the Japanese, it seems, were using a different technique. Their bow, it seems, even the heavy draw weight ones, was really intended for short range. Because supposedly their goal was to try and get through armor. Now, you've got to bear in mind here that when you look at what the English were facing during the 100 Years' War in terms of French armor, it seems to have been some differences. Because their opponents were using basically plate armor. Well, they were using mail reinforced with, solid plate. And even at close range, very difficult to get through a well-made breastplate, regardless of the draw weight of the bow. And the Japanese armor was quite different. They didn't use plate in the same way that your typical armored upper echelon soldier would be using. There are various reasons for this. I do know that when Japanese could get European-style breastplates, they valued them very highly, because they were technically better than anything the Japanese were producing. Because, again, Japanese armor was quite different. It was essentially lamellar. So it wasn't solid piece, it was pieces of plate linked together more along the lines of brigandine. Perfectly good. Probably not any lighter. But the thing is, it was probably technically easier at close range to get an arrow through Japanese armor than it was, say, European armor of the same period. So the Japanese approach to seems to have been try and get through the armor at close range, whereas the approach of the British was essentially saturate the battlefield at a given range with arrows. Quite a different approach to the concept. I've no idea where I'm going, I can't remember. I'm just going to follow along and assume I get to the portal room. But the arrows that the English and the Japanese used were, of necessity, quite heavy and strongly built, which they had to be. Ah, here we go. Because if you take a 180 pound or 160 pound, so we'll call that 80 kilogram bow, and you try and shoot a fairly lightly constructed arrow out of it, you're going to shatter the arrow. So even if your goal is short range, you're going to have to have a very strongly constructed arrow. Take a look at an English war arrow sometimes. It's massive. It's heavy. It's thick wood. It's not elegant in any way. I can't remember how I got in there. Okay, that's the Domain of Kumo. Okay, I'm here. How do I get to the next bit? I can't remember how to get through. I thought I'd just have to get here and then I'd be able to go to the next place. Alright, see. This is where we've just done. This is the Domain of Sauro, which is the next part of the plateau. What am I missing? That is the only exit, isn't it? Alright. Do I have to make my way overland? Ah, let's give it a try. So that's not a portal room. No! I just found that out. For some reason I thought it was. Insert pithy comment here. Well, it's not like I'm in a hurry, so... Alright, so that's where we were. Everything's dark around me. That's the area we've cleared up, so I guess I'm going to head... I'm going to head left, because that looks darker. I say I'm going to head left. I've got to find a way over there next. Yeah, I'd say that was a clue. Well, the map actually gave you some hints, didn't it? I guess I'm going to have to make my way up there. That would seem to be a reasonable assumption. So anyway, there's my brief thoughts, such as they are, on Japanese bows. Similar but different to the English longbow. Possibly had a greater potential range because the Japanese bow is a recurve, which is actually more efficient at transferring energy to an arrow. Although interestingly, towards the end of their life, you do apparently start seeing English longbows with recurved tips. Also interestingly, even though the Japanese bow was technically a composite bow, that is made up of more than one material, it was actually made of bamboo and wood. I can't remember. And in fact, I think they did use yew wood as well. Now, yew is actually a natural composite wood. Right, so I suppose I'm looking for a way up here. Because there is also another huge difference between the way that the Japanese used archers and the English used them. The Yumi, of course, was one of the classic weapons of the samurai, and remained that way for a very long time. Even after the arquebus was introduced to Japan, the Yumi remained a very important weapon for the samurai. Now, of course, the samurai were, I'm not going to say upper class, but yes, privileged. Well, am I supposed to cross over that? That would appear to be the case, wouldn't it? But the English used, the English longbow was a peasant's weapon. It wasn't used by the upper classes. So that's a completely different perspective. Of course, one of the reasons might be, I say might be, that the Japanese bow was harder to make. So probably more expensive, possibly. Doesn't necessarily mean simple. Oh, it wasn't simpler to make. It was obviously more. It was actually quite a bit more complicated to make. Which isn't to say that the English longbow was easy to make or simple, but it was going to be a heck of a lot cheaper and easier than a Yumi. Interestingly, there are similarly overblown stories about the effectiveness of the Japanese bow, just as there are overblown stories about the effectiveness of the English longbow. I don't know, because I don't know so much about Japanese military history. I don't know whether the English, and I do mean English, because that's what they were at the time, the English basically used massed formations of archers. I'm trying to remember whether it was a Cressy, one of the classic English battled, you know, they had 7,500 peasant longbowmen facing off against equal, if not greater, numbers of the privileged class of French. I don't know how the samurai actually used their bows in battle, so I don't know if they... Because the samurai was technically a horse archer. Which automatically means different tactics. Don't know why I'm bothering to shoot those things. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can cross the bridge. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to have to do something like a running jump at this? Interestingly, or at least I think is interesting, one of the best known samurai, we'll call them Edo period, I think it's Edo period, when Japan was essentially closed off from the rest of the world, was Musashi Miyamoto, very famous for, I think he fought 64 duels, or 60 plus duels without loss. Retired to a cave in later life to write a book called The Book of Five Rings, which I've read a long time ago. It's got this kind of mythic status, or had, I don't know whether it still does, you know, being one of those things all businessmen should read kind of thing. Yeah. Right, that's going to have to be a run and jump, isn't it? Anyway, it's worth reading. But he didn't think very much of the bow, for some reason. So, while he may be very perceptive in some ways, in other ways, he most definitely was not. I don't know why he underestimated the bow so badly. He himself, I don't think, was technically samurai, or his father was low-ranked samurai, I don't remember. Yes, I'm gonna have to do a jump, aren't I? Unless there's some other way up I'm missing. Yeah, but he didn't think very highly of bows, despite the fact that while the arquebus, which I think was mostly used by the foot soldiers, that was arguably easier to train than, say, a bowman. and probably cheaper in the long term. It didn't have the range or accuracy of a good archer, but you know, if you had a one-on-one battle between an arquebusier and an archer, my money's going to be on the archer. So Musashi had some interesting ideas, and he was at least some of the time completely wrong. It's kind of funny, but what is often overlooked by people who revere Musashi was he actually did fight in battles against Christian samurai, and that was a fairly brutal and unpleasant campaign, which is not a commentary on anything really. The Japanese wanted to get rid of Western influence in Japan, and one of those influences was the introduction of Christianity. And they were quite keen on getting rid of Western influence, although they kept the bits they liked. Like the arquebus, for example, and they maintained one trading port open, which was, I think, Nagasaki, which was available to, I think it was the Dutch, but it might have been the Portuguese. Was it the Dutch or the Portuguese? Actually, you know what? I think it was the Portuguese. But yeah, mind you, it has to be said, you know, the battles against the Christian samurai could be described as fairly brutal. Let's be fair, the Japanese were fairly brutal, like everybody else was when it came to fighting war. It had nothing really to do with the fact that they had a particular beef. They, you know, everybody at the time was particularly unpleasant whenever they went to war. The British could be pretty, the English could be pretty brutal with their own people during the our own various civil wars too. So, but it is nonetheless amusing, yeah, that in, you know, the reverence of Musashi overlooks some of the things he did in life, and whether you think it were justified or not, that's yeah, I'm not even going to go there. I happen to be one of those people who think that war is inherently immoral, and ultimately, if human beings just treated each other better, we would have no need for them, but I guess that's not actually in our nature, so, yeah, complicated. Yeah, and I know, I said there's no such thing as a just war, and people might well say, how about World War II? And I would say, yeah, that's a valid point, except one can argue World War II came out of World War I, and World War I was definitely not a just war, and could have been stopped, but nobody cared enough to stop it. So, and then the Allies' treatment of Germany after World War I was, in a way, quite inexcusable. There was no need for that. They insisted, for example, that the Germans take responsibility for the start of World War I, despite the fact that the Germans didn't start World War I. That was the Austrians and the Serbs. And that led to certain feelings of injustice, I think it is safe to say. So if we'd actually treated the Germans a little bit more reasonably at the end of World War I, maybe things would have been different. Maybe. Mind you, it's also interesting to speculate. What is not often known by the general public is that during World War One, the Japanese were allied with the English, and this was because of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty. This was a treaty which lasted, oh grief, until early 1920s. And it's interesting to speculate if we hadn't what would have happened if we hadn't broken off that treaty. Maybe things would have gone quite differently. There's a lot of things that happened in the right post-World War One, which, if they'd been handled properly, might well have resulted in there either being a much reduced or no World War Two at all. I'm sure some people will say that's not the case. That's fine. I'm speculating, I'm playing what if. But the reason the English exited, it's worth pointing out that the Japanese only got into World War One because of their treaty with the English. Technically, they had no particular reason to, but they did. They had a treaty with the British, and so they fulfilled their treaty obligations. I think there were even Japanese observers during the Battle of Jutland. But after World War One, the dynamics changed quite a bit. One of the things the Japanese wanted was equal standing with the Western nations, and that was not granted them, arguably because they were Japanese. So it was probably a race-based decision. The other issue that came about was after World War One, the Americans started getting increasingly concerned by the rise of Japan as a military power, and they decided they didn't want the English involved, so they pressured the English to get out of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty. Now this, by the way, is all very, very summarized and therefore inaccurate, because reality is always far more complicated. Right, what am I doing? I'm going to try and get across here. Well, I got over. What happens next? Oh, well, seeing as I was talking about Japanese weaponry, let's have a go at that perennial favourite, the Japanese sword, the katana, which has got this sort of semi-mythical status. I've known I knew somebody who thought the Japanese sword was the best sword in the world. Oh, that's interesting. I seem to have gained absolutely nothing by coming up here. Oh well. So the katana is the source of much myth. It's still propagated in movies and what have you, even now. And the fact is, the katana was a perfectly good sword. Fit for purpose. But it wasn't fantastically strong. It wasn't fantastically anything. It was just a good sword. It certainly wasn't the best sword in the world. It wasn't even made from the best steel in the world. And if you watch the right kinds of programs, even now, the popular sort of documentaries that might detail how a Japanese sword is made, they mention that it's folded to increase its strength and this kind of thing. Well, all right. Here's why the Japanese smiths folded the metal as they were forging it, and it was basically because they started out with quite poor quality steel. It was full of slag and inclusions and all kinds of other problems. And by folding it repeatedly, that helped get rid of the impurities in the steel. And that was the reason for folding it in that fashion. Much is also made of the fact that the Japanese would use different quality steels for different parts of the blade. This is perfectly true. You can actually achieve the same things other ways. In fact, the West did. At every point during the history of the manufacturing of the katana, the West was arguably producing swords that were just as good. We actually had access to better quality steel. During the Viking era, the idea of mixing different metals together in different parts of the blade, yep, they did that. Vikings did that. The idea that you could have different quality steels for different parts of the blade, that wasn't uniquely Japanese. They did the same kind of thing in the West, except we did it in the West by differential heating. So during the quench process, you didn't necessarily need to have different qualities of steel in different parts of the blade. You could simply cool down different parts of the blade more slowly or faster to get the qualities you wanted. But the result is, as far as I can tell, that at any point during the history of the katana, if you have let's take best quality, all right? Because that's actually a good comparison. So you have a look at a good quality Japanese blade from almost any era. You're going to find that in the West they're producing blades of at least as good a quality. Except we had access to better steel and more of it. The Japanese islands are quite deficient in natural resources. And what's really interesting is the method of manufacturing steel that the Japanese used remained pretty much the same. They still use it for certain things. They make something called bloomery steel. Those, if you watch the right documentaries, you'll see how they, mix charcoal and iron ore, iron sand in their case. And they sit over it for multiple days while a bloom is formed. The steel itself is never actually melted. Well, that's pretty much what we were doing in the West. Except that we did actually go away from that. I can't remember the point at which we got round to making crucible steel, but we certainly had better ways of making steel. We also valued different qualities in our swords. The Japanese swords tended to be stiffer. And this isn't because they couldn't have made more flexible swords. They could have done. There are, in fact, I believe, katanas which are made of springier steel, but they generally favored a stiffer blade. In the West, we favored springier blades. And it was simply a matter of style and preference. Nothing to do with the actual quality of the sword itself. So basically the differences between Western style and Japanese style swords is pretty much cultural rather than anything else. Anybody know where I'm supposed to be going? Oh, and again, by the way, that's all a very, very, very quick summary. The subject matter, like all things, is far more complicated than that. And what I've just said is a summary and therefore probably riddled with inaccuracies. A lot of is made too, you know, of the cutting ability of a Japanese sword. Yeah, they were pretty good cutters. Not fantastic, but they were pretty good. But in the West, there are some very, very good cutting swords. The Viking-style sword, very, very good cutter. It's been advocated that because the Japanese sword has a slight curve to it, that somehow that makes it a better cutter. Not really. Its curve is not particularly emphasized. You still have to draw your cut, that is, hit and draw down. You should, you have to do the same with both Japanese and Western style straight blades. To get a sword which actually has an automatic drawing cut, it needs to be curved like a bacon slicer. Oh, thank you. I hadn't thought about. I actually don't like this view very much, so I don't tend to use it, which is silly of me. Yeah, right now I'm flush up against the cliff. I'm acting on the assumption that I have to go this way. Well, any hopes at a speed run just got completely shattered. Yeah, but stories have come out about... Well, actually, there's a lot of rubbish talked about swords. It's not helped by books and movies. If you watch the wrong kind of movie, or even the right kind, or they'll often show blades cutting through armor. No, probably not going to happen. If you want to have a fight with somebody in armor, don't use a sword. Use something like an axe or a mace, or a sword doesn't really cut through armor. You'd be lucky to thrust through armor most of the time. Now, against Japanese armor, you might have a bit more luck, because again, it's not... No, even chainmail acts as a very good defense against cutting strokes. It's not very good against piercing strokes, but then it comes down to the design of whatever's being used to try and get through the mail. But yeah, you watch something like Game of Thrones, and they show somebody shoving a sword clean through somebody's breastplate and out the back, and it's metal. No, yeah, unless the metal was of very poor quality, it'd be very, very hard pressed to do anything like that. None of which is to take away from, a good Japanese sword's a very good sword. It actually has some... It's... the curve of the sword is... I'm not sure if they ever said, oh, I know, let's create a curved sword, but the curve comes from the quenching process. Japanese swords are actually forged straight, and they become curved during the quenching process. There's a few videos online which show this, but most of the videos that you see of people making katanas, they actually forge the curve into it, and that's not how it was done. Oh, it's one of those. But there used to be stories that, a Japanese sword could cut through a machine gun barrel. No, it can't. Not going to get that happening. Yes. Oh, I just. Sorry, this comment just registered. Yes, I am going further into the area. I'm following the cliff, which apparently I have to climb. So I'm following the line of that. Oh, did somebody say something about a large updraft? That wouldn't happen to be it, would it? Yeah, I think I found it. Oh, good heavens, have I started... Did I start streaming 80 minutes ago? Alright, no wonder. Okay, I am going to take a quick break. I advise anybody who's been sitting down watching me for the last 80 minutes do the same. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. And because of the weird way that this works, that kind of thing happens. So I will leave you with this screen, and I will come back in a couple of minutes. See you then. And I'm back. Hope I didn't come back too quickly. So one question that sometimes pops up is who would win in a fight between, say, a samurai with a katana and a Western-style swordsman of the same era? And the simple answer is it depends. Got to bear in mind that while we don't call them martial arts, Western-style sword play was as much a martial art as the Japanese style. Very sophisticated, very well thought out, multiple different styles. A lot of the tropes that you see in Japanese movies, yeah, they exist for the West and Western sword techniques as well. So let's suppose you take a samurai. He's not armored, but he's got his katana and wakizashi. That's the short sword. And he's facing off against, say, a Portuguese gentleman who is equipped with rapier and mangoche. Now, first thing I gotta say is the rapier is not necessarily a light sword. It was used on the battlefield. It was a fairly significant weapon. For whatever reason, these two get into a bit of a fight. Entirely possible, by the way, even during the closed period, with the Portuguese presence in Nagasaki. There could well have been exposure to... Okay, I'd better shut up for now. That looks like a dinosaur. Ow. Excuse me a second. Under the wrong circumstances, my earring sometimes pokes into my neck because of the cup here. Ooh, is that a wolf or a pig? Anyway, so you've got this hypothetical situation, which is not completely unbelievable. Western style swordman against a Japanese style swordsman. They're both unarmored. Who's going to win? And the simple answer is they're both going to be quite confused because their styles are quite different. In some ways, therefore, it is going to come down to... Ooh, what is that? The experience of the participants. In case anybody's wondering, no, a katana is not going to be able to necessarily just cut through a rapier. That is not something that happens very often. Although, if you want a history of sword breakage, that is its own, practically its own subject matter. Oh, they're not going to do the same thing again, are they? Let's see if I take cover, see what happens. Oh, this is familiar. Well, this is more or less what happened last time, isn't it? Yeah, any sword can... Excuse me. Yeah, any sword can break. There are accounts of this happening from pretty much across the entire history of people using swords. And I lost my flappy, didn't I? Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, so in my hypothetical fight between a Japanese swordsman and a Portuguese swordsman, you're not going to count on the katana breaking the Japanese sword. That simply doesn't happen. It's not going to be counted on. I mean, maybe against something like a small sword, but that's not what we're talking about. And that was a much later invention anyway. So yeah, who would win? Let's see. Depends on the skill of the individuals taking part, and the circumstances under which it happens. Rather than is one inherently superior to the other, because the simple answer is no, probably not. And I know that if certain people start watching this and hearing me talking about katanas and yumis and what have you, there will be people who will complain and say, no, that's not true. I'm sorry, reality doesn't necessarily fit your expectations. It is curiously hypothesized that Musashi, who favored a two-sword style. He used katana in one hand and his short sword, his wakizashi, in the other. Might have actually been influenced by Western sword styles. Might have been. He did, I believe, spend time in Nagasaki, so he could well have seen, European sword styles of the time. I don't think he was so dogmatic as to say that, nah, it's alright, I will find out. I know you have to sort of stay out of the line of sight of the I-beams or what have you. I learned that in the first one. I'd rather find out on my own. Makes it more fun for me. Well, seeing as we're talking about, well, I'm talking about Japanese swords and weaponry, the katana was very good for certain things. That design, almost no guard for the hand, just a minimal guard. Very good if you need to very quickly grab your sword and draw it out. There's nothing much to get in the way. You can reach down, grab and draw. Some of the Western sword styles, when they start developing more complicated hilts, not so conducive to that, makes it much harder. Well, that is a monitor lizard. Or something like it. It's definitely a lizard. That sprawling leg style is very much reptile / lizard. Oh, this is familiar. Ah, it's one of those. Find the heavy weight and shoot through it. I thought there was something there. It's not. It's just the glow from a target. I think I've more or less run out of things to say about Japanese weaponry at this point. Anybody got anything else they want me to rattle on aimlessly about? Might as well talk briefly about my schedule. I may or may not be streaming tomorrow. That is largely out of my control. I may have to go somewhere tomorrow. And if I don't tomorrow, I may not be available. Yeah, so basically this weekend, watch for the channel. I'll try and put a post up on the community post. once I find out what I'm doing this weekend. But I will be streaming Sky. Those who've been watching may know that I normally on, say, Sundays do something I was calling Journey of the Wingless. Well, that came to an end. Very sad. However, the avatar in question, Nimue, is still very much a going concern, so Journey of the Wingless will be replaced by the Journey of Nimue. Except that she's not wingless anymore. If you didn't see that live stream or the slightly edited video I put up, it's worth seeing if you're interested. Part of my goal for Journey of the Wingless was to find out what happened if a wingless picked up a wing. Was there anything you could do about it? Because in principle, those of us who yes, well, that's not exactly a surprise. So yeah, no, I wanted to answer the question, could you, if you hadn't picked up any wing buffs in Sky, return to a wingless status? And I'm sure you can guess the answer to that question, seeing as Journey of the Wingless came to an end. But in that live stream I did answer the question fairly comprehensively about what you can do in the event that you accidentally pick up a wing as a wingless character. Go watch it if you're curious. So the result of that was Nimue at the moment has only one wing and no intention of picking up any more. Now I know that's not a particularly realistic scenario, but for whatever reason she doesn't want to do wing runs, so she has one wing, and so I will be running her that way to see what the limitations are. Essentially to say, you know, okay, you've lost your wingless status, what can you do without going into the usual cycle of doing wing runs and this sort of thing. So, and just to demonstrate that I am committed to keeping on running her, I did actually pay for the antlers, so now she is this short little avatar with antlers and reindeer ears. So I will at this weekend, either tomorrow or Sunday, depending, I will be continuing her journey. It's just not going to be called Journey of the Wingless anymore. Different playlist, different game style. I suppose you may say, well, why don't you just go and get wings for her and start the whole thing over? Do you know what? It gets a bit tiring constantly doing wing runs and visiting Eden. So we'll try running her as she is. She wants to. And yes, I know I'm talking about her like she's got her own personality. If you talk to some people, at least one friend, the answer is she does have her own personality. Okay, where am I going to put this so that I can pick it up? I need to get it up there, don't I? Ah, yes, if I remember correctly, we can do things like this. Am I heading in the right way? I forget where I'm supposed to be making that shot. Oh, it's over there. So, whenever I run Nimue next, I will probably see what we can do with a wing run, especially in the hidden forest, because of course, while wingless are notoriously indestructible, that's not necessarily the case for something which only has one wing. And I can tell you, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But I won't say too much, because otherwise I'll spoil the story. There are actually some benefits to running with only one wing. Arguably. Oh, I need two of them. Okay. Because of course I do. So this is going to be an interesting shot. Of course, in typical video game fashion, I've got absolutely no idea why I made that shot. Except that that's what we've done in the past, so that's what I did at this time. Sometimes, I have to confess, I am not a huge fan of puzzles. I'm not quite sure what I would suggest to replace them, but in this context at least. Oh, that was excessive. Didn't really want to go that high. Oh, let me guess. There we go. Progress. Yeah, not in the direction I wanted to go, but progress nonetheless. Well, I did want to go through here. Let's see. Come on. I need you to drop that somewhere. And I'm guessing I have to get another one from somewhere. So need to shoot that. I don't have a clear line to there, do I? Nope, don't. Perhaps if I oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's not the kind of shot I wanted to make. Can I even see? Ah, it's over there. Can I get that lined up? Nope. Well, it tracks to there easily enough. Let's see. Why do I get the feeling this isn't the answer to the problem? Oh. Yes, that makes sense, doesn't it? So, what are we betting here? Yes, that makes a bit more sense. If you wouldn't mind dropping that, I would appreciate it. Gotta wonder about the mechanisms that they've left around this place. Oh, right. Okay. Now, what do you have to say? Not sure that helps me at all. Right. Let's go unlock that thing. Ow. I forgot there was a long drop there. So I don't know how many of you have heard me talk about this before, but I suppose some of us will know about the new NVIDIA. I went through everybody there, didn't I? GPUs coming out, well, this year. I'm a little, I say, infuriated. Oh, it was only a few years ago that 3090 was the ultimate top-end GPU. How long ago was 3090 out? And now we had the 4090. I swear the 4090 was only out for what, a year? I'd have to look it up, but it does not strike me as having had a very long lifetime. And already we're coming up to the 5090, which is going to be, of course, very expensive. I mean, we're looking at £2,000/dollar price tag. Power hungry. The thing's rated at, I think, nearly 600 watts TDP. Total draw power, that is. Which is getting ludicrous. I mean, my entire system that I'm playing on right now has a 700 watt power supply, and I am not using 700 watts of power. So we're looking at a fairly significant investment in a card that is going to be replaced probably in another year or two. I don't know about anyone else. I kind of think that's a little bit ludicrous. What did I miss over there? And, you know, are games getting better to accommodate the new GPUs? I mean, I would say possibly not. Oh, is that a Triceratops? I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I would rather have, I won't say improved gameplay, because I'm not quite sure what that necessarily entails, but I'd rather have more focus on better gameplay than let's just throw a better GPU at it. I mean, fortunately, you know, we still have indie titles that don't necessarily require the latest and greatest, but I do get a bit irritated by this constant, oh, you need, you know, get the latest, pressure to get the latest and greatest GPU just because they want, you know, better graphics. Look, the graphics on this aren't fantastic, but they are very good. My system's quite capable of handling it. I'm sure there are systems quite capable of producing similar graphics quality with a lesser GPU. I don't have a top-end GPU. I've got a 7800 XT. I mean, when you look at the fact that games like Minecraft are still going, and now granted Minecraft is, oh no, Minecraft's a good example. Minecraft's been going for what, since 2012? And yes, it's a block game. Still one of the most played games in the world. Would I like to see Minecraft improved? Yes, I mean, I'm trying to think how I would like. I wouldn't mind having it to implement a different style of graphics, I must admit. I mean, when I first started playing Sky, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Minecraft looked like this? And Sky is not a graphically demanding game. I don't know if there's room for another Minecraft type game. I mean, no one's actually come up with anything that is vaguely close to it. I mean, you come up, anybody says, oh, you know, there are better games than Minecraft. All right, come up with a game where you can build design and build your own computer within the game. I don't think there's too many. We have kind of reached the point where games which are 10 years old are still utterly playable, very good, and don't need the latest and greatest hardware to run them. Take a look at the Long Dark. How old's the Long Dark now? Long Dark's been going 6-7 years. It is as good now as it ever was. You can say, oh well, I wish the graphics were better, but no, the graphics are fine for what it is. The game is good and challenging as it is. The fact that people are still playing Skyrim. I haven't played Skyrim. Skyrim is still, you know, perfectly good game. I might at some point, although I doubt it, frankly. Mind you, I have a suspicion that what I'm saying is not new. People have been making the same, I think, complaints for a couple of decades. Good grief. It's 11 o'clock. Alright. Which means I need to start thinking about winding this down. Because actually I'm getting hungry. And to be honest, my voice is starting to give out on me. How people do more than 2-hour live streams, I have no idea. Oh, okay, I did 3 hours once, didn't I? But I was exhausting by the end of it. When did I do that? Oh, I did that for Christmas, didn't I? Yeah. So, where am I going? I'm not sure. I am going to come here. And say thank you very much to everybody who's watching. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this, please leave me a like. Subjects for discussion, please leave them in the comments. Gives us something to talk about other than the game. In the meantime, when I find out what's happening this weekend, I will leave something in the community post to indicate that. Otherwise, keep an eye out on my schedule. I will see you all next time. Have a good day. As soon as I can figure out how to shut this down. I hate that it does that. Why do I have to actually minimize the screen to come off it? I don't know. Anyway, see you all next time.